We are going to continue with the second theme, which is kind of in the same vein, but our theme here is company culture. Now, company culture, often also referred to as organizational culture, refers to the shared values, the beliefs, the attitudes and behaviors that characterize an organization and really shape how people interact and work towards common goals. It is, if you like, the collective personality of the company, and it influences the overall employee experience. And as such, it has an intangible element to it, something that cannot be explained, but that has to be experienced. And it's exactly this that touches on an interesting question around company culture in a hybrid or remote work environment. Because what happens with that culture if people cannot feel what the energy of a group of people working physically together is like? Or if they cannot experience whether the company they just joined is a place where people simply walk up to colleagues from different teams with ideas or suggestions or questions that they may have, or where people come to say hi to you when they see a face that they haven't seen before. What happens to a company culture when there literally is no place for spontaneity because everybody is remote? And that brings me to our second statement of the day. Company culture cannot be maintained in a hybrid or remote work environment. Ness, I'm going to ask you first this time. Do you vote yes or do you vote no?
I vote no and.
All right, thank you. Alex, what do you vote?
I'm going to vote no, but
all right.
Make it a bit different from this.
Could be. I'm very, very interested to hear this. All right, Ness, I'm going to start with you. Please elaborate.
I think this is a topic because my background has been leading teams and culture and designing culture or helping the organisations design culture that I get deeply passionate about. So I'll just take a breath and try and calm down. But the way I look at culture, I think the best paradigm or way to look at it is the culture web, which goes, everyone just says it's behaviours and how things are done here, but I like the very concrete 6 pillars. I'll talk to them. So they are the stories we tell about the organisation and how we work, the symbols, like the swag, the different things, the rituals and routine, the control system, so below the surface, the power structures is the 5th one, and the 6th one is the organisational structures. And I would really question with those 6 pillars that are organic in culture, why can't any of those things be done in remote? They can, and they have, and we have companies that are doing them and doing them well. The question, another issue I see when people say it can't be done is 2 things. One, you have different people, whether they're executives, frontline, who use anecdotes and single point data of their own story. And it falls into the danger of the single story. Oh, I did this. I saw my friend do this. One person at this company did this. It doesn't look at the data sets and the trends of whether culture can or cannot be done. And this goes back to Alex's excellent point. We're kind of really, as a global society, at the nascence of this approach of remote globally. So where is the longitudinal data that says this can't be done? What have we done to build, measure, learn to architect this? It's really crazy to me that we've given something a go and parts of it, yes, are not working and parts of it are working in terms of the culture. And we're like, look, can't be done. Sorry. I think we need more time to flesh out what can and can't be done. And an example of this, and this goes to my no and, is there are some things that are definitely harder to replicate, such as, walking up to someone's desk and asking them a question, which can also be very annoying when you're trying to get into flow in the office. But there are things that are hard to replicate. And, when I was at Miro, we tried to have spontaneous coffee, randomized things through Slack. And there are things we can design. But I think that is the question back to the first debate topic of why office spaces or collaboration spaces aren't obsolete. This time now, the collaboration needs to happen by design, not by accident. And personally, a argument I do not entertain is, we can't have water cooler conversations anymore and just bump into each other. if we were really going to look at data scientists and we were able to track every time someone had a water cooler conversation that enabled something else versus the amount of times we did collaboration by design. Hey, everyone, let's come into this office to randomly have a design speed meeting things. I think the data sets is my hypothesis that we would see that collaboration and water cooler by accident is overrated. I think it is an argument without substantial data. So that, I think that's one piece for it. And the final piece I'll say before I hand over to Alex is we need to look at which areas cannot be replicated, because there are definitely those, and design for that in a different way. But I think to say that culture cannot happen completely remotely or partially remotely is often done anecdotally and based on people's own needs and bias based on a design problem or question.
Nice, Nas. I really love that you do not agree with that statement. And I love what you were saying as well. Especially, I thought, that could also make for a great statement, the one about collaboration does not spontaneously happen in around the water cooler conversation. Really like that one. No, but yeah, thank you very much. I think you had some really, really interesting points and some valid points. I'm not gonna weigh in on this yet. That's not my role, although I would love to. Alex, I'm gonna go back to you. Please elaborate.
Yeah, I think culture is a really difficult point to tackle, because there is not a definition of what a good culture should be. But for me, what where amazed me a bit is, for example, I've been working in London for 10 years, all style, suit and tie, in an office, 8 a.m. sharp, going to the pub, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday night, get drunk, and you just had to do it, And back in the days, 10 years ago, I would probably, would have tell you, yeah, that is a great culture. We just get drunk all the time. And if you were not going to the pub, you were not part of it. Now, looking back, I understand that was maybe not the greatest definition of what a good culture should be. And what I'm seeing a lot is, because going remote, because I'd say if we talk about hybrid, you still have this office vibe, but for like remote companies, of course you don't have that. And as I think a lot of managers probably miss that, and a lot of people maybe miss that what they consider culture, going to the pub or and of course you can't replicate that. So it's really easy for them to say, a remote company can't have a great culture because you can't go to the pub on Thursday. Of course not. My company, my colleagues are in Bogota, Brussels, New Delhi and Madagascar. Of course I can't go to the pub on Thursday. However, I also think that if you try to replicate, that's not going to work. However, what for me makes a great culture is, first of all, that people feel that they belong to a company, and people feel that they're not being forced to be here. Today, it's really easy to quit your job. Today, it's really easy to find a job. Despite, the crisis in tech in the last 12 months, it's still quite easy to find a job. However, remote companies see that not many people quit a job. So haters have to accept that people are, the remote companies feel happy, feel that they belong to a company, and feel that, they have, or this remote company can offer a great culture. And of course, remote, we hear a lot that, but you guys work remotely, you never meet. Of course not. We do meet, not every Thursday, not every day. We don't meet at the coffee machine. But what's tricky and what's also has been a challenge for us is to, I don't like the word replicate, because we don't want to replicate the office, but push for the spontaneity to be able to talk to your colleagues about the football game from yesterday, or to talk about an idea you just had. And a few examples I can give. For example, when with my co-founders, we are 4 co-founders, every week we have a walking meeting. It's a meeting when we know we don't have to take notes, or we can easily take notes after. We all walk, Juan might go to a park next to his co-working. I might go, whatever. So we do walking meetings where we try to emulate new ideas, because, we know that when you are walking, when you are going to a park, ideas can come up better than when you are just sitting on your desk. We have open audio rooms on Discord, where when you are walking, you can just be in a room and anyone can join and talk to you about it. So my point is, of course, as an employer, as a remote employer, you need to find ways to push spontaneity and to try to create this spontaneous moments. And at the same time, you also need to meet face to face. For example, we meet 3 times a year per region. European meet, people in South America meet. So because that's also part of creating culture. And so that's for me my point. And now culture is not dead in a remote environment. It just, we don't have to replicate what a culture could be in a 5-day a week office environment. And we need to find ways to create spontaneous moments. And of course it's not easy. And of course it's a challenge. And of course it's not natural because we're all working remote for the first time, but still you can make it and you can have great connection with people you've never met. There are people in South America I've never met and I can talk about anything with them. So it's all about creating these moments and stop saying, oh, but you don't have the ping pong table or you don't go to the pub and get drunk on Thursday. Yes, of course not. So we need to stop that and create a different way of approaching the culture.
Thank you, Alex. Naz, is there anything you'd like to add or not, perhaps?
I think maybe just a reiteration in the first debate and the second debate, everything that Alex said, if we take away all the surface layers, what we're talking about is inclusion, because the examples of going to the pub or the ping pong table, they were not inclusive of different groups, maybe people who don't drink, parents who can't do it. I think this is forcing us to do 2 things, looking at how we redesign work that is more inclusive for different demographics and ethnographics. And the second piece that I kept thinking when Alex was talking around this, his founders coming together intentionally, it goes back to collaboration by design. And it sounds silly, but spontaneity by design. But it's not silly because this goes to the idea of flow states. I think this is the biggest thing if you look at, Deep Work by Cal Newport. In the office, we almost thrive on, I've got to go to a meeting, I've got to rush upstairs, I've got to go this. Now, I think what's scarier is people are looking at what do I truly need to do? What is the way to shortest job first? What is the thing of the most value? And can I focus on that and get into flow without the distractions of other people? So I think there's a scarier layer of how not just work is being redesigned at an org level and a team level, but how it's being redesigned at an individual level. Because if you're like, actually, I need 4 hours of flow time to get this done on a daily basis, and now here's my collaboration time, then I think the design question here would be very different.
Yes. When I was listening to both of you, I think what are a couple of interesting takeaways from this debate, if I could call it that, is one, that's one thing that I think we can definitely take away from this is the element of what you were mentioning a couple of times, Naz, is the collaboration and the spontaneity by design. And I think that comes back to, if you're in a hybrid or remote setup, really look at what are the elements that we do not have now because we're not physically in the same space, and how can we go about creating those. That's what you said, Naz. I find that really interesting. And I think what Alex is saying, very interesting as well, is let's not try to replicate things, because the way things were going or are going in the office, I think they are not necessarily going all that well all of the time. I'm thinking about my own experience when I was still working for employers and I was in office spaces a lot. This whole water cooler thing, it's almost like a myth, because there was a lot of the time when I even entered the elevator in a company and I was meeting people who were working in different departments, and I would say, hello, good morning. And there was not even always a good morning coming back. So maybe we've created this myth about the water cooler and the magic that happens there because you meet somebody from another team. Often people, that can also be my limited experience in various companies though, people don't necessarily talk to other people that spontaneously. So I think the not trying to replicating element is very important as well. We really have this tremendous opportunity now to start from scratch and to create new ways of how we go about collaboration, spontaneity, and culture in a way. So that's I think what I'd like to take away from this debate.